Ladies and gentlemen, if we can get your attention, please. Now to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Bob Simon.
So this year's keynote speaker is Bibianne Fell. Bibi. She comes to us from San Diego. She's also a Hawaiian. The one great thing about Bibi, and in the guide it actually says that she's at the Gomez Chow firm. It's actually incorrect. She started her own firm as of January of this year. She's an excellent trial lawyer, and even better human being. And Bibi came and agreed to do this knowing she was supposed to start trial on Monday. But one of those things happened that happened to Michelle E. Russo where they paid her demand as of a few hours ago. So she's now free next week to mentor, take any cases that you want. But Bibi has on her own. She's in San Diego. She is one of the few people that I know that have a 9-figure verdict that she got a few years ago when she was up for Trial Lawyer of the Year. That alone is very, very difficult to do. And she's been winning cases in the medical malpractice arena, personal injury. It's just across the map. And she's an amazing trial lawyer. And I think as we look across the room in statistics at law school, there are now more females in every single trial or every single law school across the map. So I think it is time that we have more females in their trying cases, and they are great pairings. Almost every trial that I do, I try with my partner as a female for that because there's a vibe to and a different way of doing things. And I think it is just something special. But Bibi also is winning this year's Pepperdine's Trial Lawyer of the Year award is going to Bibianne Fell. So a round of applause for Bibi, please. Bibi's going to crush her speech, and I'm looking for Spencer because he has the actual award, which he's going to give it to you after this. It's really cool. It's really cool. I trust me on this. But ladies and gentlemen, you're going to really enjoy hearing from Bibi, and hopefully you'll be inspired. And if not, that's probably her fault. So good luck.
Thanks. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. So when I was asked to give the keynote speech, I thought, okay, well, there's going to be a room full of people who are looking to me to give them little nuggets of wisdom and show them how to make the right decisions along the way so that they're headed towards this path of success. Oh, man. You guys picked the wrong person. I told my husband, too. It's like, I'm going to be expected to give nuggets of wisdom and the path to success. And he said, but you have such a long history of bad decisions. It is so true, and it started at a really young age. I was in elementary school. You know who had a crush on me in elementary school, and I turned him down over and over and over? Bruno Mars. It started early. Then I go to law school and I get this great job at Baker & McKenzie, and I'm making certainly more money than I'm worth, more money than I knew what to do with. I didn't have a whole lot of time. I had all this money to spend and not enough time to spend it, and I thought, well, I'm going to go out on my own. I went out on my own 3 months before the market crashed, and my marquee client, who was giving me 90% of my business, filed for bankruptcy. Bad timing. Every house I ever bought, I bought at the top of the market. So if you're looking for the path to success and how to make the right decision along the way, I'm probably not your gal. I have a little 3-year-old, and my husband and I went to the park with her, and we wanted to play a race game with her, and she said, you know, Mommy, I'm so fast. I said, well, yeah, let's see how fast you are. So I told her, I'm going to time you. You start here and you get there, right? It's a straight line. Start here and get there, and I'm going to time you. Ready, set, go. And she runs like this and then over here. Turns out the straightest path, the fastest path between A and B is an octopus. I bet you didn't know that, but it is. It's an octopus. My 13-year-old, I've got 3 girls, 3, 13, and 14. Smartest kid I've ever met. I mean, crushed it. Reading by age 3, just straight A's, A pluses actually, they give them now. They didn't when I was younger, A pluses and everything. She never experienced a single failure in her 13 years until about a week ago. She hit this section in math. She just kind of didn't get it. And she didn't tell anybody she didn't get it. So she went in for the test, and she saw the problem, the first problem that she didn't get, and she absolutely froze. And she went and she talked to her dad, she talked to her sister, and she said, "Don't tell Mom. She won't understand. She's never failed at anything in her life." Because all she saw were my successes. And when I was sitting in your shoes 15 years ago, and I heard keynote speeches by lawyers who I really, really wanted to emulate, I saw them up there and me in the seat, and what I didn't see was that path between law school and success in a career as a lawyer. And I thought that path was straight. I thought that path was doing everything right. And what I've learned, and the one thing I hope to impart on you today, is that success is not perfection. Success is resilience. Part of the problem when we look at people who are successful and we wonder if we'll ever get there, how we'll ever get there, is that we're comparing our insides, our doubts, the knowledge of our failures with their outsides. And when you compare your insides to somebody else's outsides, it's never a fair comparison. So stop it. Resilience, the path to success. I'm going to talk about resilience in 3 areas. Resilience in your practice, resilience with people, and resilience at home. First, resilience in your practice. The practice of law is a marathon, not a sprint. We all hope we're going to have 30-year-long careers, maybe even more, not only of successes, but of enjoyment. The law is, if you're in the right area of practice, the law is something you can and should be so passionate about. And I truly believe there is a right part of the law for everybody, for every single personality. What you sit here today thinking you want to do 10 years from now, you could be right, and you could be totally wrong. And so if you're going to have a long career, find something you're passionate about. And be resilient if you're not there. You are never going to be more marketable than you are in the first 5 years of your practice. If you get in, and that's not it, get out. Get in, get out, do something else. Over the course of my career, I've held several different jobs. My first job was at an insurance defense firm. It was okay. My next job was at Baker McKenzie, handling big litigation, bet the company litigation for Fortune 500 companies. It was incredibly intellectually stimulating, very interesting. I found it a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, I was making a lot of people a tiny bit of money. And so while I loved what I was doing and was having a lot of fun doing it, I didn't feel personally satisfied with my career choice when I went home at night. So I started doing plaintiff's work. And for me, for my personality, it fit. There are some people, some of my colleagues, excellent lawyers, excellent trial lawyers. If they got a call on a Friday at 7 p.m. from a client, they would just about die. My clients have my cell phone number. They call me Friday night, they call me on the weekends. I feel like I have the honor of holding somebody's hand through the most difficult part of their life. And that fits my personality. I love what I do. I'll probably do what I do until someone, probably my husband, says, "Bibi, you're drooling, you shouldn't go to court today." I've known I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 4 years old. My dad was a lawyer, uncle's a lawyer, grandfather was a lawyer, great-grandfather was a lawyer, 4 generations of lawyers. And someone once asked me, what was it? What was it that told you at 4 years old that you wanted to be a lawyer? And the easy answer was, well, my dad. But why? Why? What do you know about the practice of law at 4 years old? What did I know? I knew that my dad was doing something he loved. I knew that my dad was doing something important. And I knew that my dad was doing something that people in the community respected him for. That's what I wanted. I didn't know anything about being in a courtroom or what it was like from day to day, but I saw his passion for what he did, and I wanted a taste of that passion too. Resilience in practice also means experiencing failures. Anyone who has tried cases will tell you that we lose trials. We win great verdicts, and it's a huge celebration, and I think my number of friends on Facebook jumped up like 1,000 people when I got that 9-figure verdict, but we lose them too. And it's not just that we lose cases we should lose. The most heartbreaking losses, the ones I think about the most even now, are the ones that I think the jury just got it wrong. Because I wonder, what could I have done differently? Every great trial lawyer has those experiences. What's the difference between having an experience like that and becoming a great trial lawyer, or having an experience like that and not improving? It's resilience. It's willingness to learn. It's willingness to get up and keep swinging, to try again. Another day, another trial. There will come a time in your career, probably early on, and I'm telling you this because I had this experience, and every single person I know who I've talked about or knew early in their career had this experience. You will do something wrong on a case. It will feel like the end of the world. You will want to crawl under your desk, cry, and never come back out. You are not alone. Everybody goes through that. That thing that you're worried about, that thing you screwed up so badly, it's probably fixable. That partner you're worried is going to yell at you, they probably did it too. It's a dirty little secret that people don't tell you. Here's the cure for that feeling. You have a community. You have each other. If you call me and you say, hey, Bibi, I saw you speak at Pepperdine Law School and I'm having one of those moments. I'll tell you, I'm under my desk and I just want to cry. Guess what? I will take your call. Assuming you're not going up against me, I'll talk you through what I think in my judgment can get you out of the situation. I will reassure you that yes, people make mistakes all the time, and judges, they understand that too. Opposing counsel, they understand that too. And whatever's going wrong, there's probably a fix. So when that moment comes and my face pops into your head, remember that I'm telling you this. Everybody goes through it. Get up. Get better. Congratulations, you just learned a valuable lesson the hard way. You know what's great about learning lessons the hard way? Those are the ones that stick with you, right? I am stubborn as all get out. My husband will tell you that. And the best lessons I've ever learned, I've learned the hard way. Sometimes I actually insist on it. Resilience with people. It's a funny thing about human beings. We're such a mediocre species. We have so many issues. We're pretty selfish. Sometimes we don't mean to be awful to other people, but we're just not thinking about the impact that we have on others because we're so wrapped up in whatever is right in front of us. We're a mediocre species. Be resilient with people too. Give people room to be human beings. It's not always about you. This is true for clients, it's true for opposing counsel, and it's true for the people you love. We all suffer from the same human condition. You know, we look at a case sometimes when we're about to go to trial, and we see all the things our clients did wrong, right? The sub rosa that's going to come out, or something they said in deposition that they're going to be impeached on later on in trial. And we think, gosh, this is just so awful. We run into opposing counsel, and they're not very kind to us. I'll tell you, early in my career, I sure have some stories. Very first deposition that I ever took, I show up at deposition with my little rolly bag, and I'm so nervous. An opposing counsel gets out of his car. He was parked just a couple cars down, walks up to me, and he said, "Oh, are you headed in for a deposition?" I said, "Yes." And okay, I'm starting to calm down a little because this man seems so nice. "Well, let me get your bag for you." He reaches down, he picks up my bag, and we start walking towards the office together, and he says, "So how long have you been a court reporter?" I said, "Well, actually, I'm your opposing counsel." Drops my bag, walks inside, right? Not everybody's going to be nice to you. It doesn't mean they're always bad people, right? And it certainly doesn't mean that you should return the favor. Be resilient with people. Be kind to them, even if they're not kind back. It's really easy to be kind to someone who is kind to you. The true test of your character is whether you can do that for somebody who doesn't deserve it. That same opposing counsel, who I thought just was awful to me, hated me, at the end of that case, sung my praises about my professionalism, my skill, and he sent me cases. So just because somebody doesn't treat you well doesn't mean you have to have a relationship problem with them. Sometimes the way that they're acting doesn't actually reflect the way they think about you. And when you treat them with decency and respect, in spite of the way that you're being treated, they remember that. Part of the reason you want to treat people well even when they're not kind to you is because reputation is so important. You start building your reputation the day you step into a community. It will take your entire career to build your reputation. It takes only a split second to lose it. So don't waste your most important asset as an advocate on somebody else's issue. Because trial lawyers and judges, I kind of heard that they talk about other people like my teenage daughters talk about other people. Things spread like wildfire. Oh, and you know that clerk at court who's just really mean to you every time you come in? You never seem to write your matter number in the right place on your business card? Well, if you're mean to that clerk, guess who she sits next to every single day? Your judge. So treat people with respect, treat people kindly, no matter who they are, and no matter how they treat you back. Resilience at home. This is a topic near and dear to my heart, and actually this is what I get asked about most. So I have 3 daughters of my own. I married my second husband about 5 years ago, and he had 2 kids. So I have 5 children at home. Now that's not the hard part, right? It's not the children that I have at home now. Flash back 10 years. I was a single mom working at Baker & McKenzie, 80 hours a week on a good week, and I had 2 daughters under the age of 3. Now, their dad was in the Navy, and so he was deploying all the time. And I'm born and raised in Hawaii. My family's from Hawaii. It was hard. People ask me all the time, how do you find balance? And the easy answer, the quick answer, is I don't. What I found was my perfect imbalance. Be resilient at home, meaning be resilient with the person you love, be resilient with your kids, and be resilient with yourself. It's okay. Kids are resilient. You're not going to screw them up that bad. So I had to try a case when my daughters were 1 and 3. Live in San Diego, case was in Santa Ana, and it was a 4-month-long trial. So my father came out, and he lived in my house and took care of my girls the entire time I was in this trial. And I harbored a lot of guilt about it, right? And the kids didn't understand why mommy was gone all the time. But now with a little bit of distance from that, they are so appreciative of that time that they got to spend with my dad, with their grandfather. They have such a great relationship with such a great man. And the depth of that relationship and their love for each other never would have been possible if I didn't have to make that call to have my dad drop everything and come out and live with me. It was also super awesome payback, right? He was a trial lawyer. So growing up, my mom took care of us. And he didn't have to do anything, as far as I could tell. He didn't have to change diapers. He didn't have to feed us. If he was in trial, my mom stuck us in the car and we drove down to where his office was in downtown. We would sit with him, have a little homemade meal out by a picnic, and then he would go back into work. He didn't have to get in the nitty-gritty with the kids. Well, now here he is raising my 1-year-old and my 3-year-old, doing all the stuff he never had to do for us. Ultimate payback. In 4 months, both of my daughters got lice twice. But that's the stuff of life, right? It looks really glorious when you hear lawyers say, oh, I was out of town for 4 months trying this case. It was actually about the ownership of 4 hospitals in Orange County, very high-profile case, big money. Sounds super glamorous. But again, that's the outside. Don't compare your insides to somebody else's outside. Be resilient with your partner at home. If they're a lawyer, they might have a little bit better understanding what you're doing, or they might have equal stresses and need equal support that you're not always willing to give. If they're not a lawyer, I think it's very difficult for them to understand the passion that you have for what you do. But it can create a lot of interest and different discussion. No matter who you're with, a lifelong partnership is hard. And anybody who's been married for any period of time will tell you that it's very hard to get to know how to work with and live with each other. You need a lot of forgiveness. I have a terrible memory. It's awesome. I forgive so easily because I can't remember what he did. I love my husband, love him to pieces. I can't imagine that I get to come home to him every day. I think I got the better end of the deal. I think he thinks the same thing. But that didn't come easy. We had to learn how to forgive each other. We needed to learn how to understand each other. He knows that if I'm about ready to try a case, he doesn't get his loving, bubbly wife. He gets trial lawyer Bibi. That's what he actually calls me. It's like, uh-oh, trial lawyer Bibi's home tonight. What happened to my wife? I guess I'll see her in a couple of weeks. But he has learned not to love the way I am when I'm so wrapped up in something else that I don't have time for him. He has learned to give me grace and to give me the ability to go out and do what I love. And you know what? I love him so much more for it. So when your partner at home is struggling to figure out how to support you, how to love you, how to be okay with not always being first, give them grace. Be resilient with them. I read a book by Sheryl Sandberg. I recommend it to everyone, especially women, but I think also it's a great read for men, called Lean In. And she talks about being a woman, raising kids, climbing the ladder, and being successful. Wonderful, wonderful book. Very inspiring, and she's very funny too. There are a lot of funny stories in it. And so I was telling a couple of my male colleagues about this book. This book is so great. I actually bought 10 copies, and I gave them out to women that I knew, and I gave them out to men who ran firms who had women working for them in hopes that men could understand from a woman's perspective what that struggle is like. And they're like, oh, Bibi, did you lean in? Did you lean in? And I was like, what? I was a single mom with 2 little babies working 80 plus hours a week. I didn't lean in. I hung on. And it's true. Lean in, hang on, however you get there, it's that octopus. There's no one path. The good news is that whatever you're going through, whatever stage of life you're in, whatever stage of life your kids are in, they're really, really wonderfully needy for the first 6 years. Whatever stage of life that is, it's temporary. This too shall pass. And with little kids, now that I have a 13-year-old and a 14-year-old, I can tell you, it passes fast. It really does. And you look back on the struggles. I look back and I'm like, I have this image in my mind of me collapsed on the couch with these two little kids going, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy," and me going, "Mom is closed. Thank you for your patronage. Please come back tomorrow. We open at 8 o'clock in the morning." Or, the whining that happens between two sisters because somebody took a toy or somebody took, clothes that they like, and me kind of going, "You don't want to do that. Don't whine. Snakes are attracted to whining." So you do what you have to do. I look back at that and I think, wow, I felt like, in the moment, I felt like this is never going to end. I felt like, gosh, when am I going to finally have time to enjoy those moments with my kids, to put my all into practice, to not feel like I have found really only the perfect imbalance where I'm just kind of shitty at everything. But it passes, and it passes really fast. And when it passes, you turn around and you look at a beautiful 13-year-old and 14-year-old, and you think, I was worried about how I was going to raise these children. I was worried about whether I was there enough. I was worried about whether I was conveying the right things to them. I was worried about whether they saw my successes as a barrier between me and them, or whether they understood the struggles that it took to get there, and they were learning to build that resilience. I worried about that. And there were so many times that I just had to laugh, because the only alternative was I was going to cry. So there's something called the deployment fairy, right? And Spencer will find out what the deployment fairy is. The deployment fairy comes when a husband leaves for a 10-month deployment and the wife has 2 little kids and they just break everything. It's like the opposite of the tooth fairy. They do these awful things. So I had, very busy, put my 2 kids in the car, going to take them on to daycare, and their dad had just left on deployment, so I didn't have a whole lot of support. I get in the car, or get to the car, put them in, I'm looking around on the ground, and I'm like, what are all those little white spots? Like, it kind of looks like toilet paper. There's toilet paper all over my driveway. So I kind of follow the path of the toilet paper, and there's like more and more and more on the floor near the garage. Open up the garage door, and there's an explosion of toilet paper and wet stuff and yucky stuff. And I looked at that and went, maybe that will fix itself. Shut the door, got in the car, and went to work. It didn't fix itself, but I was able to come back with my full faculties later on that day and call the people that I needed to call. So it's not easy. It's not beautiful. It's not a straight path. Sometimes you have to draw that octopus. If you came here thinking that I was going to give you the recipe to take all the right steps so that you could make that beeline from A to B, from here to success, from law school to a career, I'm sorry. I didn't give you stories of success. I gave you stories of struggle. Because I don't think success comes from making the perfect decision. I think success comes from getting back up, getting back on that path, and having the resilience to learn from your struggles. So to all of you in your future careers, I wish you not only success, I wish you mostly the resilience to get there. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
You could do the launch announcement. Who are we looking at? Oh,
I don't know.
up there. See? Lunch.
So, ladies and gentlemen, now we will be serving lunch. We have the table set up outside, same place where breakfast was. What we ask that you do is go in and collect your drink, lunchbox, and head back towards the auditorium. We're going to be starting the next panel at 1, so there's some time to stretch your legs, interact with our vendors a little bit, but please head back in and be ready for the next panel at 1 o'clock. Thank you.